This is the limitless Keith Lee.
This is Brody King.
This is Angel Garza.
Will Ospreay.
Hornswoggle.
Pentagon Junior.
The villain, Marty Scurll.
The Mexican Ray Phoenix.
King Ricochet.
Concrete Rose, Sunny Kiss.
And I'm here to ask you to stop what you're doing, take just one moment, and bask in the glory of the busted wide open.
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 Boston Wide Open.
Busted wide open podcast.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from your little Jigsaw Network arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome everybody to BWO Live, coming to you from Twitch. This is our breakdown, recap, analysis, color commentary of all things NXT Takeover WARGAMES. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And yes, Nick, we just wrapped up another iteration of NXT's War Games.
I'm not even going to try to do it. My voice is fried after this
War
week.
Games. I love that they had everyone try to do it, and William Regal just goes, "You all are so disappointing. It's done like this. War Games!" And he does it. It was fantastic. The show itself was... It was a War Games. We had a women's War Games. We had a men's War Games. And then we had some matches in between. I'm not going to lie. Two out of three of those matches were... they weren't up to the standard I would expect from a takeover, but through no fault of the people performing in them. But we'll talk about all of that. We have much to discuss about this, Nick.
Indeed.
But we have to do some business first.
Yes.
And then we can do that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to kick things off by saying Jesse O'Connor started us off with throwing in 195 bits.
Ooh.
Saying that
Thank you.
is undisputed.
Ooh.
I'm assuming
Thank
she's
you very much,
referring to the finish, but we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Thank you very much, Jess. Guys, make sure you get into the Discord. Lively chat. Shout out to everybody that showed up tonight. Shout out to everybody that's hitting Twitch with us right now. Thank you guys for coming and joining us. Very lively discussions all night tonight. Make sure you get in there with us throughout the week and for future upcoming pay-per-views. We got TLC coming up in a couple of weeks from today, actually. And then in a couple of more weeks, we're going to have Wrestle Kingdom from the Tokyo Dome. So you won't want to miss out on all of that. So make sure you come and join us in the Discord. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast. Subscribe over at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. And patrons, thank you guys so much for all of your support every single month. We're looking forward to getting your bonus episode for December done here shortly. But if you'd like to get in on some of those exclusives and some of those bonuses over there, head over to patreon.com/BWO. Sign up for one of those awesome reward tiers to get access to show notes, the ability to send listener questions every single week for the patron mailbag, get audio-only versions of the show, bonus episodes at the $10 tier, all kinds of good stuff over at patreon.com/BWO. Ian, let's not waste any more time. Let's head over and talk about War Games!
You gonna survive over there, dude? You tried to do War Games and it really killed me.
It took me out. I'm done. Take it away, please.
It was a good one. It was a really good one, though,
Thank you.
Nick. And actually, it was a very good pay-per-view. We started off with the women's War Games match. That, of course, being Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, and Shotzi Blackheart versus Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, Candace LeRae, and Toni Storm. The heels came out first, looking pretty badass. They all, of course, had nice threads on. Toni looked spicy. Raquel Gonzalez looked monstrous. Even dropped the trench coat in the back to show off her back. Buddy Rogers style just showed out there. It was great. Dakota Kai looked vicious. Then, of course, Candace came out looking like an evil pixie thing with the wings.
Had
and
the
like
vampire wings going this time. It was nice.
Like Vampire the Masquerade with Candace LeRae. It was great. They all get locked in a cage, and then out come the faces. Ember Moon comes out with her new glowing mask thing. Rhea Ripley comes out showing off her brutality. Io Shirai comes out with
and
her
eyebrow.
style.
Whatever the hell's going on with Rhea's eyebrow.
Looks like she got shot upwards in the eyebrow, but I'm not mad at it. And then out came Shotzi Blackheart on her brand new tank. Apparently all of those promo videos leading up to this where she's in a workshop working on shit, and Ember Moon and Rhea Ripley are coming in and bringing her equipment. Apparently, those were not just to add atmosphere. She really was working on something in kayfabe. She was working on a brand new tank. Even big. It was even bigger than the last one. She doesn't have to like crouch down this one. This is full size. Not Rusev full size, but it's bigger.
No, I look forward to the day we get the M1 Abrams tank drive-in by Shotzi Blackheart at WrestleMania. It's going to happen.
It's coming. It's come. Let's call it now.
Within the next 3 years, we're going to get that spot.
If Shotzi ever comes out at WrestleMania, she's coming out on a tank.
Yeah.
A full-size goddamn tank.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
If only so, because they love repeating history, and if only so Vince can be like, forget about Rusev. Think about Shotzi. But she came out on a brand new tank, big skull on the front. All the women climbed on top of it. She had a little circle with it. All the women climbed on top of it, and then Dakota, who was in the ring, was jaw-jacking at them, and the tank fired a projectile at the cage-surrounded ring and startled Dakota Kai and the rest of us because that thing's armed. That thing's operational.
Good old potato gun from my childhood years.
Not mad at that.
Nope.
It's got like steam coming out the back. So yeah, all right. She got a fully functioning little toy tank now. Very cool. And then the match began with Ember Moon and Dakota Kai leading us off for 5 minutes until the advantage, of course, was going to the faces. After the 5 minutes were up, Ember and Dakota were joined by, let's see, who was next? And it was Shotzi was the second one.
No, it was Raquel. No, you're right, Shotzi. You're right.
Shotzi, and then Shotzi and Ember were teaming up in Dakota until Raquel came in to even things up, get the heat back on the heels, be a monster until Rhea Ripley came in to take that back away. And then we had Toni Storm come in and bring in a whole bunch of kendo sticks.
Let's also call out Shotzi brought in a sledgehammer and a toolbox.
She brought in a toolbox with a mini sledgehammer in it.
Right.
Like a little mallet.
Right.
In it.
I wonder if that was a little nudge to Triple H.
I wonder. And then we finally had Io Shirai attempt to come in after Candace gets in there. So, no, sorry, Candace isn't in there. Io tries to come in, and Raquel starts playing defense. And this is the first moment where I could see this being controversial because Io, it was like she kept bouncing off of a plastic wall. Because she literally did, because every time she went to try to get in the ring, Raquel would just knock her off the stairs and she'd go flying into the barricade. And she did this like 3 or 4 times. She kept trying to get to like throw stuff in and then try to get in. Ultimately, Toni Storm gets her belt wrapped around the door and prevents her from getting in. So Io goes to try to climb the damn cage to get inside. When out of nowhere, we have Indy Hartwell come in with her neck brace and beat up Io Shirai, apparently take her out of the match, and allow Candace to waltz down the ring and get into the match. And now it's 4-on-3 for the heels, and the beatdown could commence. Until, Nick, something happened, which I'm going to go ahead right now and call the spot of the night.
Yeah.
On the first match of the night. And that was Io Shirai magically appearing on the south side of the cage on the top, on the little platform, with a trash can.
How'd she get that up there?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm assuming she had assistance, or maybe she's a badass and carried it up herself. Either way, she just appeared up there with a goddamn trash can and then did something I did not expect. Yeah. I expected her to throw it off and knock someone in the head.
Or maybe jump on top of it, on top of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Leg drop on. No. This woman put the trash can over, like smiled as she was doing it. Thumbs up,
kind of shrugged and just, yeah.
Well, I guess this is happening.
Yep.
Put it over herself. So she was a trash can with legs and then jumped off the top onto the pile of women below. Good Lord. And then, of course, the War Games match could begin. They tried to actually win it. I love that the heels tried to win it before, and the ref had to remind them, you can't win until everyone's in the match.
Right.
And they were like, come on, that's bullshit. It's like, it's in the rules, ladies.
Yeah.
Maybe you
should
should check
big long list of rules they put up on the TV before the match that we have no time to read.
Right. You've got to read those before you make your master scheme.
You mean you didn't read the terms and conditions where we're allowed to sew your mouth to the butthole of another person?
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, and it was weird because, they had Indy lock the cage and take the key and run away with it so the refs couldn't unlock the cage, so Io couldn't get in. That was their master plan. That was the heels' master plan, was we're going to lock Io out and then beat everyone up and win.
They didn't think that one through.
Right. It's like, you guys are idiots. And yet, that was not the end. We also, so after this, the match really did begin. Because shortly after this, Nick, another trash can spot happened. That has to be one of, God, that could have gone worse than it did, but it was still nasty looking. Io Shirai, once again inside the trash can. Dakota Kai gets up on the top turnbuckle and stomps her on the trash can. And that trash can compacts on her stomach so that Dakota actually has to help her get out of there because she was trapped in the trash can in order to pin her.
I thought that would have been a cool spot if you did try to pin her while she was in the trash can. And the ref would have just been like, I can't see her shoulders.
Exactly. I think that's probably why. We also had a spot a few minutes later where Ember Moon had Dakota Kai draped over the backs of two chairs and hit a goddamn eclipse on her. That's one of the craziest things I saw all night.
That looked like it hurt Ember more than it did Dakota.
Hurt everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the eclipse is a move when you're doing a top rope sit out stunner. The fact that Ember can still stand. I mean, let's think about Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
The man's finisher was a leg drop for 30 odd years. And he lost 5 inches in height because of the back compression and all the issues he had with his back as a result of doing that night in, night out. Ember's doing that with more force from the top rope and coming down on her butt. I can't even imagine. I mean, I know she's not doing as many matches as Hogan did, but it's just, the wear and tear of that being your finisher. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Her back is not going to be happy with her in 20 years.
I doubt it's happy with her now.
Yeah.
So then you had a bunch of big spots at the end. You had Toni Storm do a Storm Zero on Ember Moon through a trash can. You had Candace LeRae end up on the ground between two chairs, and Shotzi Blackheart came off the top of a ladder on top of her, and legit injured her from what we understand. And they were both taken out of the match.
Yeah, according to Fightful, I think Kyle posted it in the chat right as we were getting started. Apparently she's broken her arm.
They're thinking it's an arm break. They don't have conclusive evidence yet, but it sounded like an arm break. She couldn't move it after the match.
Yeah.
She just had it next to her side, couldn't raise it or anything. So pretty likely, I'd imagine. It looked nasty, and she didn't look happy about it. But finally, it came down to Raquel Gonzalez grabbing Io Shirai, and it looked like Io Shirai was going to try to Rana Raquel off of there in the no man's land, in the middle of the two rings.
Right.
And it looked like she was going to try to Rana her off the turnbuckle onto a ladder that had been spread through the two rings on the bottom rope, or I guess the middle rope. And Raquel reversed it and one-arm power slammed Io through this ladder and then pinned her 1, 2, 3 after all this carnage to win the War Games for the heels. So, Nick, first things first, what of all those spots, what was your spot of the match?
It's got to be Io coming down in the trash can.
That's got to be one of the most spectacular things I saw this night.
I also really loved the Stormbreaker through the trash can. I love trash can spots. I think they're kind of funny. They're a little bit of Wile E. Coyote. I love the stomp through the trash can, the Stormbreaker through the trash can. But yeah, Io coming off the top in a trash can, especially the comedy that she brought along with it, where she went and just lowered it, and they kept the camera on her as she was lowering the trash can over herself. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
was mine. How about you?
I mean, let's call it for what it is. The women utterly over-delivered in this match.
Big time.
One of the things about War Games matches that detracts from them is it's very obvious sometimes to see the choreography, to see when everyone is kind of realigning and be like, okay, we have to do this spot. Okay, we have to do this spot. And there were certainly times in this match where that was the case. And you could see everyone, okay, we got to get to this place. We, have to make sure this is in the right place for this, and let me move this item to the right place and so forth. Despite all of that, the women were doing so much so smoothly, and there were so many enormous, huge, holy shit spots. It's a tragedy this wasn't done in front of a pure live audience. Obviously, they're doing the best they can with the minimal audience and the pumped-in sound and all of that. But can you imagine the rhythm of this match in front of a live crowd?
Yes.
It would have been Io coming off the top. The place would have gone molten.
Just climbing to the top, you would have heard that gasp, that
right
from the
I
audience.
wonder if they could have pulled that off without. I mean, again, I don't know how she got it up there by herself. I wonder if she had assistance. I wonder if they'd been able to pull it off. But it's neither here nor there. It's tragic this match was not in front of a crowd. But I mean, I think I listed all my favorite spots.
Yeah.
Like the eclipse over the chairs was the one I really cringed at. But of course, the one I cheered at the most was Io off the top in a trash can. But it was a phenomenal match. The women absolutely outdid themselves. And I think the only detraction here was there wasn't as intense of a story and coherent of a story as I would have liked. It was Candace ran over Shotzi's tank, so Shotzi's mad at Candace, and so they each formed teams, and the heels won. Which, okay, they told that story, but they don't like each other for various reasons, but it didn't have, for instance, the cleanness of the story in the men's main event War Games match. And we're going to talk, Nick, later in the show about which one should have main evented, because there was discussion about that in our Twitch group, in our right now there's in our Discord there was discussion about that, because which one do you have main event? And we'll give our opinions at the end of the show which one of this of the men's should have main evented. But I'll say it right now. Either one could have.
Well, I mean, Dog Ziggler is weighing in. Obviously, he has an opinion.
No, we have to wait for the end of the show, Dog Ziggler. End of the show. And I know you're a very opinionated young man. End of the show. So let's actually a couple more things. One, Raquel Gonzalez pinned Io Shirai.
That's where I was going. Second only to Io coming off the top in a trash can. I was going to say another big spot that I would say was Raquel actually pinned the NXT Women's Champion.
That's more of as opposed to an impressive spot. That I think that means something.
Yep.
Either because even the commentary said she's just checked a big box there. She's just made herself a major player.
Right.
And I couldn't agree more. That puts her in title contention.
Yep.
And the possibilities with her being in title contention are enormous.
Does she get a shot to take it? Does she take it off of Io and we start the war between her and Rhea headed towards Mania? Like, holy smokes.
Took the words out of my mouth. Exactly. Rhea couldn't get the job done against Io, but could Rhea get the job done against Raquel? They're obviously building a major feud between those two. When Rhea gets in, Raquel's already in the ring, and Rhea goes, Raquel looks at her and goes, I've been waiting a long time for this. I mean, you've been waiting since the last time you guys faced in a match, which was like a month ago. But it's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, they're keeping those two having a hot feud. They don't like each other.
Years, that's an eternity.
Right.
A month.
In WWE terms.
Right.
Yeah. That was a million years ago. That never happened. How you remember that? That's crazy. So yeah, Raquel pinning Io, I think, is a big deal. I think that's something to look at in terms of the women's division going forward.
Yep.
Candace LeRae's injury may mean a lot going forward. Is she going to be able to fulfill whatever idea they initially had for her? Whatever that plan was. Or is she going to be out for 3 months? However long it takes for her to heal that arm, depending on how bad it is. So, what happens next in the women's division? This leaves it wide open as far as I'm concerned. I have no idea where they're going after this. There's a lot. I mean, again, we got 8 women in this match alone, one of whom is the champ, but all of them could be champ.
Yeah. Any one of them. That's amazing.
Yeah. Could be champ.
And they were saying it before the show on the kickoff show. I think it was Wade Barrett that said it. He said, it's not just the best women's division in the world. It's one of the best divisions in all of wrestling today. And I think they proved that with this War Games match tonight.
Yeah. I mean, can you think of any other women's division in the world where 8 women could be champion?
No.
That's crazy.
No.
I mean, there's even divisions, as you said, where you can't think of 8 men that could be champion over another man. So no, definitely they've done a great job with this. And this was an absolutely fantastic match. Even more fantastic because I did pick the heels to win.
Yeah, we were doing a little counter booking on our pick'ems Friday night. So yeah,
was that what it was?
Oh yeah, you were. That's fine. Whatever. I got some catching up to do before we get out of here. I'm trying to justify my picks. Damn it. Let's see. Kyle threw in 100 bits. Thank you, sir. He said, I know they lost, but I seriously want that face team of Shotzi as a unit going forward. They all look so good together, like Powerpuff Girls of Rock, punk metal, grunge, baby metal. Side note, I hope Robert Stone has upped his life and health insurance with that new tank of Shotzi's.
Who?
Exactly.
Who? Where's he been? He lost Mercedes Martinez. He lost Chelsea Green. He lost everybody.
Yep.
What happened? Got run over by a tank. Then you're done.
Yeah. Uncle Greg gifted a tier 1 sub to Anna
Greg.
NXT. Anna, I think you did. Make sure you thank Uncle Greg. And he also gifted another tier 1 sub to McGator Guy, Derek McGator Guy. Guys, make sure you thank Uncle Greg for your gifted subs. Thank you for those, Uncle Greg. Let's see. He also threw in 1,000 bits. Good Lord, man. He says for the women's match, bless Stephanie McMahon for the women's revolution.
Yeah. Man, I'm so glad Stephanie came along and made that women's revolution happen.
Right.
Wasn't for her, telling all those women that they had to step up. Man. I mean, it's right there. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Stephanie McMahon. They go together.
Times Chief Marketing Officer of the Year,
It's lucky they've got an extra little side of Mount Rushmore because it's waiting for Stephanie. Anyway, our next match of the night was Timothy Thatcher.
One more
we got another one. Let's do it.
Kyle threw in another 100 bits. He said if Shotzi's team was set to win, this absolutely should have main evented. Also, shout out to Dakota selling her ass off, bumping around like a bumper car in there. Yeah.
Good point.
Huge hat tip to Dakota.
First half of that match, she took all the big bumps.
Last year it was Kaylee Ray, if you remember.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Kaylee Ray just was getting destroyed last year. This year, Dakota Kai was just getting murdered in there. And yet she didn't do any of the big spots.
Right.
No,
she did the stomp of the trash can.
And she ate the Eclipse.
She ate the Eclipse,
Dakota Kai, man. Yeah, good point. She in there doing the work.
Yep.
Doing that work. Kiwi proud. Kia ora. Timothy Thatcher versus Tommaso Ciampa was up next. It's a nice little cool down. Let's get down on the mat and do some mat wrestling. Some wrestling.
And
this
was some wrestling.
This was a hard-hitting, mean, ugly affair. And it was so ugly that at one point it looked like Ciampa might have actually re-injured his throat and or neck, but just powered through it. And it was a little clunky after that, but still like just an ouch match. I mean, to the point that Ciampa even kneed Thatcher in the ear at one point, and Thatcher's ear just burst open, just hard way. And then, I don't know if you caught this, Nick, but Ciampa had a headlock on him, pulls back, and starts punching the ear to get more blood out of it. Like, he wasn't going for the head. He was going for the damn ear. This was a nasty match. Here's the unfortunate thing, Nick. As much as these guys just went in there and beat the absolute shit out of each other and had, from a technical standpoint and from like just on paper, a great match, the fact that there was next to no story for this just took me right. I was like, what are we fighting for here?
Yep.
Why are we fighting? You're two badass guys fighting. I'm never mad at that. You're kicking the crap out of each other. I'm never mad at that. But why? This is a takeover. This is a pay-per-view. Why are we having this match?
Yeah.
And we didn't, I mean, even in the build-up video, they couldn't really explain it. Usually those are very coherent, and they say, this guy did this to this guy, he said this, and now we're having a match or whatever. And that's pretty much what this was, but it just was so incoherent. Okay, well, Ciampa doesn't like the locker room atmosphere, and Thatcher's kind of mean in his class, so Ciampa decided to get in Thatcher's face, and Thatcher choked him out, and here we have a match. On a pay-per-view, on a takeover. It's very thin.
Yeah, this would have been an amazing main event on NXT television.
Exactly. This felt like an NXT main event.
Because
they went a little harder than they would for that, but yeah. Exactly.
Because, and I think I said this in Discord, we're probably not ever going to get much closer to a more just like old school traditional catch-as-catch-can wrestling match. Mm-hmm. It's hard hitting. That's technical mat wrestling. That's holds and all kinds of stuff. Like counters and all kinds of, like, you're not going to get much closer than having these two guys in this style of a match. So for that, I have mad respect for it. I love it. I like both these dudes. We all know this Ciampa's story at this point. I want to see more from Thatcher. I got really hyped on him with the pit fight earlier this year with Matt Riddle. I want to see more of that. So,
but Nick, I actually want to touch on that.
Okay.
Because he was hot. He beat Matt Riddle going out of this, right? So they gave him a big bit of momentum with that, a big push with that. And when's the last time he won a match? Or a feud, rather. You can win little matches, but I'm talking about like a big major match. He hasn't in forever.
No.
And it's what we were saying on our Pick'ems episode was we both picked Ciampa to win.
Yep.
And I said, I'm going to pick Ciampa because I think they're going to give Ciampa the win because they need to give him, they want to keep Ciampa, hot and higher up on the card. And I from what I understand, he should have been in the War Games match, but with Ridge Holland going out, they had to reshuffle everything, which is why this was just such a weird build. But whether or not that's true, Ciampa's kind of aimless right now. And he's one of their bigger stars, so they want to keep him hot. He doesn't need to put over Thatcher.
He's also got some beef with Cross, and I think that could come back into play
correct,
when he comes back.
Which we need to talk about later in the show as well. However, Thatcher needs a goddamn win. Like, we know he's a mean dude. We know he's a bad MF. But at the same time, dude needs a damn win. We didn't get it here. We correctly called that, but it's kind of a pity.
I think it's not just that. I think he needs a stronger gimmick, too. He just doesn't look like a superstar.
What are you, dude? How, it's such a specific gimmick.
I know. It's so niche. It doesn't transcend into like superstardom.
Well, then we got to talk about the next match on the card because Dexter Lumis had a strap match with Cameron Grimes. You want to talk about a very, very specific gimmick? Let's talk Dexter Lumis, who we both love his gimmick. We think it's really fun. The psycho killer, Stranger Things, weirdo artist, whatever the thing that he's doing. I'm crazy. I never blink. It like Thatcher. It's very specific, perhaps even more specific than Thatcher's. I would argue more specific.
Sure.
And I would argue even less likely to get him to superstardom, or at least it would not have the longevity.
You're referring to Lumis?
I'm referring to Lumis.
Yeah.
I think Thatcher's is more organic, and you can find more things to do with it. I think Lumis's is very limiting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a great gimmick.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to do with Lumis, though, the thing that I liked about him when he first showed up is that he was this otherworldly being that came out to weird Stranger Things space music, and he no-sold everything, even blinking. Like, he refuses to blink. So he still does some of that, but he started showing vulnerabilities. And I feel like it was a lot of things got lost. I know you can't no-sell everything forever, but I feel like a lot of the things that made him popular in the beginning kind of got lost.
And this is the issue I have with this, is that this is Lumis's second strap match in 6 months. We previously had one with Roderick Strong.
Right.
And now we have another one with Cameron Grimes. And it's pretty much the first feud after his Roderick Strong feud was the Cameron Grimes one. It's been going on for a few months. And I feel like we said this on the show, we've had multiple climaxes for this feud. This didn't feel like another climax. It just felt like another match. Now, that being said, like the Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa match, these two guys went in there and beat the living shit out of each other.
Yeah.
The living hell. They took huge bumps. They took some huge strap spots and, getting pulled off of the ring apron by the strap, being thrown into the barricade, and all kinds of just gnarly shots and bumps in this. But at the end of the day, without that meaning behind it, without having any real purpose, Cameron Grimes needs to overcome his fear of Dexter Lumis. We've had that. It's been the same thing for months now. We've had multiple different gimmick matches, whether it's a blindfold match or a haunted house of horrors match, or now a strap match. And it just seems like it's been too much. This didn't feel like a culmination. This felt like just another step. And I have no idea if the end of this, even though this was a war, and it was probably the most of a war they've had as a match, which hopefully that means that's the end. I don't know if this is the end, Nick. I can't tell.
I don't either. And I think we all ultimately agree that we're confused by this because the Halloween Havoc match should have been the blow-off, the Haunted House of Horrors match.
Yep, agreed.
So,
that was definitely the most spectacular of their matches.
The thing that's hardest about this for me is that I love both these dudes. I want to see them both be successful. I love both of how they found themselves in NXT, but I don't know where they go from here.
But you say that because you like Dexter Lumis's gimmick and because you look in the mirror and you look like Cameron Grimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to clarify
that.
Okay.
Cameron Grimes, baby.
To the moon.
I got to go find one of those hats now at a Goodwill or something and see if I can wear it for you guys.
Dear God. And the vest, the hat and the vest. That's all you need.
Yep.
And you're right there. You're like
He's got
Cameron
about
Grimes.
2 more years worth of beard to grow.
You're like Cameron Grimes meets Tom Araya over there. What you are.
I accept that.
Okay. I didn't think you'd be mad at that.
No.
But that's 2 matches in a row where you had 2 guys working their absolute asses off and just putting on good matches that just weren't necessary or were fine. It would have been fun on NXT TV, and they didn't feel worthy of a pay-per-view. They felt like they were a little bit more so. They went further than they would have gone on NXT TV.
Yeah.
But the build wasn't there. The stakes weren't there. I've got no complaints about the wrestling, but all of the trappings around it seemed lackluster.
This seems to be a problem with NXT too, in the sense that they'll have these. What was the last one? We had a couple of these that were on Halloween Havoc, if I'm not mistaken. They were just kind of there, and they were sort of nothing matches. And I remember the Great American Bash a few months ago. They did this over the course of 2 weeks, and it was kind of some nothing matches that didn't really mean anything. Like I feel like that a common complaint about takeovers is that they oftentimes have these cool down matches of sorts in between some of the hotter matches as exhibitions just because they're there. Save those for TV. Even if TakeOver has to be shorter, I would have rather just seen the title matches and the 2 War Games matches.
I'm going to give credit where credit's due, though, here and give them a pass in some sense because it's a tough year to book things far in advance.
Yeah, that's true.
Between their injuries and between COVID and between the fact that NXT is run in part by a mask denier, that we've had multiple breakouts in NXT and infections in NXT. So it's been a very topsy-turvy year in terms of what talent they're able to use.
Yeah.
So I'll give them credit and say, like, okay, they might have had issues building storylines as a result of all of those things. So, benefit of the doubt, I suppose. And the guys went out there and, like I said, they did their work. But it is unfortunate because it is not as quality as a year or more ago where a takeover, every match meant something. Every match had a build.
Yep.
So that's more why I'm just kind of critiquing that.
And maybe it's just me, but I don't want to cool down. I don't want a piss break. When I'm coming to takeover, especially War Games, I'm coming for war. I want 2 hours of just nonstop in my face, something just punching me in the face constantly.
And we're used to that because we're used to that with NXT.
Right,
that's kind of my point.
Exactly. They've built that expectation up. Let me catch up real quick before we move on.
Please catch up.
Yep. Abe threw in 100 bits. He says, I want to know how Nick is doing so well after that strap match.
Because you look like Cameron Grimes.
I'm doing great. Thank you, Abe.
Just to clarify, Abe.
It was pre-recorded 2 weeks ago.
He looks like Cameron Grimes because basically there's a painting in Cameron Grimes' attic, and every time he takes a bump, Nick gets another gray hair in his beard.
Right.
Is how it works.
Right. It's almost like a voodoo doll in a way.
Yeah. It was a Oscar Wilde reference, but it's okay.
Got it.
Portrait of Dorian Gray? No.
Thank you, Abe.
No.
Next up, Kyle threw 100 bits and he says, with Loomis, we need to start getting to the point of evolving him. I get man a few words, but we're at the point where you cash in the build of him finally saying something with meaning in a feud to make a bigger star-making moment. Yeah, at a certain point, he's going to have to talk if he ever wants to go further than he is.
I don't know about talking. I like the whole communicating without words thing, but I can understand at some point, maybe if you wanted to, but you can't go back from that.
Yeah.
You can't go back from him being the strong silent type.
Yeah, that's Bailey turning heel and chopping down the Bailey buddies. There's no turning back. Like once you
Sami Zayn going heel,
right?
Pulling Shane off the table. You can't go back from that.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful when you do that. I agree. Loomis needs to evolve and find more layers, but that's kind of the nuclear option right there.
Yep.
just having him talk. So
he did win the match. Do we expect him to go on to pursue potentially the winner of the North American Championship match tonight?
On the trajectory he's on, I can't see why he wouldn't.
Yep. He was feuding with Priest. He now has gotten past, allegedly, Cameron Grimes. I feel like he's in that number one contender spot.
I agree. It's why I picked him to win this match, as I felt like he was the one who Cameron Grimes can afford a loss. Loomis is on that trajectory. I don't know if the strap match is going to become his signature match. Frankly, I hope it doesn't, because it adds nothing to his character. And unless you have something where there's a build with meaning to having a strap match, like with Roderick Strong, here, why were they strapped together?
Because Cameron kept running away from him. That was the little bit of story that we got. Is Cameron was a runner, and he didn't want him to run away anymore.
That's the same reason Roderick Strong, I'm afraid of him, so I need to be strapped to him to keep myself from running away. It's the same reason. How many times are we going to do that? And this was not as well defined as the Roderick Strong one.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, he's scary, so people will have it put on a strap to keep from running away from. Okay, you can only do that so many times before you got to stop.
Yeah.
And I think we're there. But you mentioned the North American Championship, Nick. We had a North American Championship match up next. Triple threat, Leon Ruff, the current champion, versus Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano. Of course, Leon Ruff did win it under strange circumstances, with Damian Priest helping him do so and helping him retain it in a couple matches against Johnny Gargano. Gargano, this last week, was on commentary when Priest and Leon Ruff were on a tag team together. And we had a bunch of ghost faces pop up in the audience to spook Priest, and then also to protect Johnny Gargano at the end of the segment. So we all kind of expected that Ghostface was going to pop up at some point in this match. We also predicted that if they unmasked, Ghostface would be Austin Theory. We both, Nick, assumed because of the Ghostfaces popping up that Johnny was going to find a way to win this match. But I'll tell you what, dude, and I don't know if you felt the same way in the middle of this match, they threw enough sand in my eye in this match to keep me guessing the entire way through.
Yeah.
And props to them. Was it overbooked, or did you think they did just the amount of booking necessary to throw us off the scent of where they were going with this?
Normally I would say it was overbooked, but they've done enough over the past few weeks with Ruff winning it and his interactions with Damian Priest interfering in the match and DQing him so that he would retain. I feel like there's enough story there to justify it. Normally I would say yes and agree with you, but I feel like there was enough there for like all of the interactions and the warnings that Damian Priest kept giving to Leon Ruff. I feel like that was, it was justified. It made sense, and I didn't have any problem with it. I found almost no flaws with this match. I absolutely loved it.
Well, I was so relieved. Yeah, I was so relieved to have a match with story.
Yeah.
After the first 3 matches of War Games, that I was invested in it. You had Priest there trying to win the match and tell Leon Ruff to get out of his way. Leon just out there with all heart, trying to beat up both of them, Priest being kind of confused by him and finally getting sick and tired of him and putting him through a barricade in a huge spot that saw Leon Ruff be taken to the back. Well, that pun was Leon the money. So Leon gets carted to the back, and I'm not going to lie, Nick, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. You're going to have Priest and Gargano fight, and then the ghost faces are going to come out. Leon comes back out to help save them. That's not what happened. Leon came back after Leon went to the back as a way to have Damian Priest and Gargano just have a singles match for about 5 minutes. And then Leon came right back out, and we were back to a triple threat.
I actually thought Leon might come out as one of the ghost faces. Crazy stuff. But
that's Nick booking.
It is.
Nick booking 101.
Yeah.
But then the ghost faces did come out, and Damian Priest lost his damn fool mind and started just taking them. 6 guys. There's 6 ghost faces, by the way. Up till now, we've only seen 2 at a given time. 6 of them. All around the ring. Damian Priest doing flying sentons over the corner turnbuckle and laying dudes out like a boss, only to be ultimately taken out by a lone ghost face with a pipe who lays him out. Leon Ruff then misses a frog splash. Johnny Gargano gets off the one final beat DDT, pins Leon Ruff 1, 2, 3. Johnny Gargano is a 3-time North American champion. So, Nick, a couple of things here.
Okay.
Also, I should finish up that sure enough, that ghost face with the pipe unmasked, and it's me, Austin. It's me all along. It's Austin Theory. And he actually did that line. It's me Austin, it was me all along.
For you young kids that have only been watching wrestling for about 5 to 10 years, you may need to do some homework on that. But that was a nice
Vince
little
McMahon.
nod at some old stuff.
Vince McMahon in 1999, 8 unmasked, 9.
Ministry of Dark, 9.
Ministry of
Ministry of Darkness.
Unmasking as the head of the Ministry of Darkness,
Yep.
and the greater power, the higher power, who was behind all the shenanigans against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and ultimately formed the corporate ministry. Neither here nor there. The bottom line is that Johnny Gargano's a new champ. Leon Ruff got pinned, and they spent the first 10 minutes before this match telling us that Leon Ruff wanted to not be a joke, that he wanted to win this to prove he wasn't a joke. So, Nick, does that mean Leon Ruff's a joke now? Because this is tough. I think it was the right decision to have the ending go the way that it did.
I agree.
I picked Johnny Gargano to win. We both did.
I think the idea is that the ghost faces and the distractions and all of that and the interactions with Priest, and Priest was preoccupied with the ghost faces. So I think that kept both of them looking strong. Johnny, always the opportunist, hit that the one final ending or whatever it's called.
One final beat.
Come on. And it was opportunistic. So that's the way I walked away from it. It was an opportunistic victory. I don't think we've seen the last of Leon Ruff. I don't think it was a fluke. He had a lot of good stuff in the 2 weeks that he was champion. 3 weeks, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's made himself.
Yeah.
He made himself. He got over. He's made us all interested in him.
He got engaged.
He got engaged.
I mean, that dude's living like a rock star right now.
He's living his best life, or he was before he lost the championship. But that's kind of my question: was the overbooking of this match necessary to tell that story, or did they need to tell more and protect Leon, or will they do that this week on NXT TV?
Both.
And it'll be fine.
I think all of him scrambling around and going under the legs and all the stuff the antics that he was doing served him great. And then I think we're going to see more that on
there's
NXT.
More story.
Yeah, there's more to
story.
This.
Well, also more to this. There were 6 ghost faces. We had 1 unmasked. And they were all dudes. We know Indy was a ghost face at one point, Indy Hartwell, but she wasn't there. Those were 6 dudes. Who are the other 5? And I'm wondering, is this the sort of thing that they'll just brush under, oh yeah, forget it, Johnny just hired them and we'll never talk about it again?
Right.
Or does Johnny have a big old faction? Does Johnny have a bunch of goons? Is it just Austin Theory? Is it like Retribution where there used to be like 40 of them and now there's 5?
Except
you know what
the
I mean?
other way around, because it started out with just 1. It was Indy Hartwell, and now there's 7 or 8 of them.
Right.
Are they multiplying? Are they cloning
then
them?
We go back down to 2, Indy and Austin,
right?
Which we thought it was the entire time.
Right.
But I think it would be an oversight to do that. I think that's cheap.
Yeah.
To have there be 6 of them now and then just never mention them again. I think it'd be better to have a faction, especially if Gargano is the new North American champion, to have him hold on to it, to have him retain it, and have him have like a faction of goons at his disposal.
Yeah.
So
I think that was one way. We've always talked about Gargano going up to the main roster and how his size could do him a disservice. Same with Adam Cole. But I think that taking both of those guys up with larger groups of guys could maybe do better.
At some point, you have to separate them.
Yeah.
And then what do they do?
Yeah.
And then when they're on their own, they're screwed again. Yeah. So I disagree.
Jesse threw in 100 bits, says she wants a Priest Ruff tag team.
I mean, you kind of already have that with Dane and Maverick. I don't know if they'll do it twice at the same time. I would like the idea too, but again, they already have that.
Yeah. She threw in another 100 bits, said Ruff hung in there with the best of them pretty damn well. He's made himself not a joke. That's a good point too. Here's a brand new up-and-comer that hung in there with Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Takeover. And
Damian Priest, who was out there doing some work in this match.
Yeah,
that dude.
He's come a long way.
It's fantastic. He was good when he was punishing Martinez in Ring of Honor.
Yep.
They're just cleaning up his stuff, and they're letting him really go in some of these matches, which is fantastic. But yeah, I think that's the story they were trying to tell, is Leon hung in there. But they're going to have to underline that and tell us that story more on Wednesday for that to stick. Because otherwise, he ate a DDT and lost the match at the end of the day.
Yeah. Kyle threw in 100 bits too. He says, Gargano had more run-ins with this match than Cody has in his big matches. Also, can someone explain to me where we're going with Priest now? We just turned him face. Why make him come off as a jerk?
Well, first of all, Johnny Gargano gets extra run-ins because he takes less time entering the ring. He takes about the fifth of the entrance time that Cody takes, so he gets a couple more run-ins. It's a trade-off thing. You can spec into only one of them.
Right.
And Cody got the entrance perk, but Johnny gets more perks into run-ins. So that's how that works.
You have to break down their talent trees. I love it. It's fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all where you allocate your points. But in the case of Damian Priest, I know what you're saying in terms of him coming off a bit jerkish, but I would argue if we really break down all of his actions where, he was trying to tell Leon to get out of the way, but not hit him until Leon pushed him too far. And then he had a long moment of remorse after taking him out. It makes Priest look like kind of an anti-hero where he's selfish and he's kind of self-obsessed, but he's not heartless. And that's more the vibe I've been getting from him through the whole thing is he's out for himself and his own amusement. But at the end of the day, he does have a heart. So that's kind of like, yes, is he acting kind of like a dick? Yes, he's kind of a dick, but he's not evil like Gargano is. And so that's why I think you got like the total white meat baby face with Leon Ruff. You've got the scurrilous, scandalous heel over here with Johnny Gargano. And then you got the guy in the middle with Damian Priest, who's a little good, a little bad.
He's cocky. He's got an ego. He parties like a rock star.
Yeah.
He jumps in hot tubs with hot chicks and champagne bottles. And
that's what I'm saying.
But he's not a
Leon Ruff is
douche.
like the wholesome little guy trying to do his best.
Yeah.
So
like Johnny Gargano used to be 2-3 years ago.
Right, exactly. It's all dynamics.
Funny
it's
how
all
that
dynamics.
works.
To me, I didn't think Priest came off too much like a jerk.
No.
He seemed like a guy who could be a jerk, but he was not inherently a jerk.
He's a jerk to the guys that deserve to be treated like a jerk.
Yeah, and I think like we've had moments where he's kind of had like that internal struggle with how he treats Leon Ruff. So yeah, I'll give him I like the way that they're treating his character actually. It's very appropriate for his character, frankly. Yeah. If you want him to be a face. He can't be like a full baby face. So
thank you guys for the bits.
Yep. Thank you guys. So let's see. One last thing about this. Johnny Gargano is now champ. What he was saying was he wanted to be champ with his wife as champ as well. His wife's got a busted arm. And depending on how hurt she is, was she in line to be champ or a secondary title? Does this scupper those plans? Does it delay those plans? This is all rhetorical questions, Nick. I don't think that there's any answer to them. I'm just kind of speaking out.
Is it a break or is it a fracture? Like, there's so many questions. Like, recovery times are so vast with broken stuff.
Yeah. So time will tell.
It's not just a soft tissue injury. It's when you break something, you could be gone for a year.
Yeah. Yep.
So
depending on what it is.
Yep.
Depending on what it is and how. So we shall see as far as all of those aspects of it. But we also had one final match, Nick. The men's War Games. Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee's Pimps, the kings of NXT, Pat McAfee himself, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, and Peter Dunn.
The Bruiserweight.
The Bruiserweight, the newly jacked and ripped Pete Dunn, who's
been hanging out with Finn Balor over in the UK.
Lord
eating
have
nothing but
mercy.
spinach.
He's got the Johnny Gargano wire legs now. He doesn't have any meat in his legs now. He's just tendons and muscles.
Yeah.
So this match, the heels had the advantage. And so first in the ring, Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly, which
I didn't know how bad I want that match until they both were standing in the ring, and I went, "Oh, this is a dream match right here.
This is going to be 5 delicious minutes."
Oh boy.
And it was.
Yeah,
it was 5 minutes in heaven, Nick.
I was raving about Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher earlier.
Yep.
No. This one. This is the one I want.
Yep. And then Oney Lorcan came in. Bobby Fish came in and cleaned house. And then Danny Burch comes in with a couple of cricket bats to even things out. Roderick Strong then comes in on a super hot streak. Just lays everybody out. Goes absolutely insane. And then finally, we get Pat McAfee. By the time Pat rolls down to the ring, his boys have regained control of everything. And Pat starts loading up the ring with tables that have been conspicuously spray painted with the Undisputed Era sign and the name of each one of the Undisputed Era guys.
Nice touch.
So they start setting those up. Yeah, nice touch. That's cute.
Yeah.
That's cute. So they start setting those up before and right before they get a chance to start putting guys through tables. Who should come into the ring? Adam Cole, Bebe, who gets in there. He takes the fire extinguisher, blasts all the guys in the face so he can get in the ring, and then gets in and opens up the proverbial can of Wapass.
Mm.
And then it begins.
War.
And much like with the women's match, Nick, we can talk about big spots, but this was just nonstop insanity from then on.
Yeah.
And to their credit, there were very few big spectacular spots and more just kind of organic moving from one side of the ring to the other and having one or two guys facing off. The occasional like 4-on-4 moments.
Yeah, they would have the sort of, like Civil War lines of sorts where they just rush each other, right? Almost like a pit wall or something.
The two big spots both came from, of all people, Pat McAfee, who first did a moonsault, his absolutely insane how beautiful it is moonsault, off of the top turnbuckle onto, what was it, Roderick Strong? It was on a table.
Yeah, I think so.
He put him through the table. And then later, this son of a bitch gets up onto the top of the ring and does a moonsault off the top onto everybody.
There's a swanton.
Swanton, thank you. Excuse me, a swanton off the top onto everybody else. Come on.
We would expect that from Jeff Hardy. We would expect that from anyone else that's done high spots before. I did not see that coming from Pat McAfee at all.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
No, I did not.
And it was the thing. They didn't really catch him properly either. And I'm not sure if there was a boink on the head. It was somebody. I think it was Adam Cole. Enough. And then
there was a glancing blow.
Yeah, and that's not a small dude either. It's not like he's a little 185-pounder. That's a 250-pound man. That's a big boy. And he came down, and I think it might have been just his feet hitting the mat, but it just looked like he went straight through the pile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he got right back up and kept going.
It was madness, and it just became it was of course just a swing back and forth between the heels and the faces for most of the match. Some really nice moments. At one point they had all the heels stood up between the ropes and the cage, and it was all the Undisputed Era guys were just running at them and hitting them with big shots it was like a firing squad.
Yeah.
A wrestling firing squad at one point. You had Pat McAfee slap Adam Cole in the figure 4 leg lock. He did like every heel move there, every dirty heel move there was, including a low blow right at the end. And Adam Cole was able to man up out of it and get to the top and do a Panama Sunrise, which Pat McAfee kicked out of. And Nick, I thought Undisputed Era was going to win with that. And when McAfee kicked out, I had no idea who was going to win at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, yep,
I thought that
cool.
was the turn. McAfee's going to win after that.
Yep. And right. I thought maybe McAfee's going to win. Maybe Era comes back. I don't know. But everyone else woke up, and there was a big exchange of major moves, including Roderick Strong doing one of the craziest backbreakers I've ever seen. He threw Pete Dunn 5 feet in the air.
It's his end of heartache, kind of a lumbar check sort of backbreaker thing that he does.
Soul.
But he just tossed him into next week and didn't really land the backbreaker part of it. He just threw him across the ring.
It was insane. But then it ended with Kyle O'Reilly coming down on Oni Lorcan's face with a chair on Oni Lorcan's face, which legit busted Oni wide up all over the place. Busted him, as they say, Nick, wide open. And pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. Undisputed Era once again wins the War Games to close the show. Wow. I mean, obviously lots to digest with this, but let's start with Era standing tall again, defeating Pat McAfee's guys. I know you'd picked Pat McAfee because you thought he was the future and these guys were going to go on and kind of run NXT and Era was going to fade out. Obviously, that's not the case.
Yeah.
What do you think now, Nick? What do they have planned now with Undisputed Era and Pat McAfee's guys?
They got new gear. They got a rebrand. They got all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, we might be seeing another 2 years worth of Undisputed Era as faces, kind of fending off these evil entities that come in and try and, are they going to be the new sheriffs of NXT when they're, instead of being the bad guys that are just running shop,
Right.
they're going to be the new good guys that are holding down the fort.
They're the regulators.
The regulators, exactly. So
Count up.
I get that, and I'm fine with that. Flip them face, let them be good guys for a little bit. Because I don't think any of them would do really well on the main roster right now. There's just way too much going on up there. There's no room for any call-ups right now, frankly, especially in the men's side.
Do you think that's why they had them win, was to kind of give them a fire under them, and McAfee's boys can afford the loss because it's that catharsis. The heels finally get what's coming to them.
Yeah.
NXT stands tall. Undisputed Era is representing NXT.
Plus,
right?
you had the heel
Pat
women
McAfee's
win. So
Pat McAfee's the evil force that's coming into NXT and saying NXT sucks. Undisputed Era is now saying, no, we're standing up for NXT.
Yeah, when the heel women won at the top of the show, I was like, nah, well, shit.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
The women's versus the men's match. Both were superlative.
They were.
Both were really good. The women's match, I think, got by more on big spots. The men's match got by, I think, on just inertia, because that thing just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier as it went. And the finish was just wild.
It was about 5 minutes of finisher spam there at the end.
But not in the way that NXT has become.
Not in the false finish way. Yeah, no, not like that. Yeah. But just everybody hitting their shit.
Yes. It was spectacular. It was another fantastic War Games match. They haven't really had a bad War Games match yet.
No.
And they've all felt somewhat different. But should the women have gone last? Was that a better match?
100%.
Or was the men's a better match? The women should have gone last and it was a better match. That's your opinion?
Both of those, yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So if we hold to the theory that they wanted to end the show on an up note with the faces winning and overcoming the evil heels, switching them and having the heels win at the end of the show, you think that would have been a better decision? Because that, in my opinion, Nick, that's the only reason they didn't have the women go last. I think if they had switched the finishes, if the women's faces had won, then that women's match should have gone last. If Undisputed Era was going to lose to Pat McAfee, they should have gone first. I think the only reason they put them where they did, because of the quality of both matches. I obviously don't know how good the match is going to be until it happens. But the only reason they put them where they did was because of the finishes.
Yeah, I have to believe that.
And especially after watching them, that women's match was so killer. I would agree. Close with that if the faces go over.
I don't know. I think every now and then you can have the evil heels win, and you can close the show out on that. It's the problem with it is it's done so much in the main roster. We've all lived through all the Brock finishes.
Sure.
Over the last few years that we're just kind of on that. But I think especially if you had made a bigger deal about Raquel pinning Io Shirai to close it out, and that really would have sort of anointed her through that glass ceiling that she's kind of bumping up against right now.
But I'm going to make a couple more points about this.
Okay.
Real quick. Why, yes, even with Raquel, if you made that a big deal at the end, the reason why it didn't feel like a bigger deal, they didn't have enough story built up there.
Yeah.
Again, with the story here, like with all the matches in the middle, except for the Leon Ruff, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano one, which had a great story. The men's War Games match had an amazing story.
It did.
All of the ups and downs that happened with Undisputed Era and Pat McAfee's Kings of NXT. You had some great history. You had some real heat. I don't think the go-home show was that good, but overall, the video package and everything that they had done, there was more of a defined story there.
Yep.
If you closed with the women's the way that it would have been a flat, soft ending. And it's their last pay-per-view of the year for NXT. They're not having another one until New Year's Eve on January 6th, which they announced. Excuse me, I said that wrong. New Year's Eve it is! Eve it is!
On the heels of Wrestle Kingdom too, by the way.
I know, right? I wonder if he's defecting. I mean, they're having him job all over the place over in New Japan. Maybe he's come over to be with his girlfriend.
Oh God! If it turns out to be just the fact that Evil is debuting in NXT, that'd be
his contract's up in January. They all renegotiate after Wrestle Kingdom, but with quarantine, he's not going to be there in 2 days. Yeah, just to tell you all, that's funny. It's not real.
No.
It's not speculation. We're just saying. Anyway, I think the men's War Games had more story. It told a better story. It had better story going into it. I think the women's match was more exciting from top to bottom. The men's match was absolutely excellent and almost as good in every way, perhaps even better, depending on who's watching. Like I could see someone could say either one was their favorite, and I'd be like, yeah, totally, I get it.
They were both fantastic.
They're both fantastic. The men's just had that finish, and it had more story, so it left you feeling good. And when you've just watched a 45-minute war of a match like War Games, if you leave a show after that feeling, oh, the heels won, that's exhausting. It doesn't make you feel good. Doesn't. I don't think that's how they want the show. They don't want people to feel that way when the show ends.
Yep. I'm looking forward to going back and watching them again because the one, and I'm going to apologize in advance if this offends anybody. I feel like the women's match ended somewhat abruptly. I didn't expect that kind of a finish, and part of me kind of likes that, but I also was like, oh, wow, we're done already. And even though the amount of time had passed that did, I still felt like there was a bit of an abruptness to the way that it ended in No Man's Land. They were between the rings.
You're not wrong. Yeah,
there was something kind of like, oh, okay. that was kind of my reaction. Well, wow, okay, good for Raquel.
I think on repeat views, and just in the few minutes we've had since this all went down, I think the men's match will edge out the women's match overall. But largely, as you say, because of the finish.
Yeah.
Just the finishing sequence and how it ends. So yeah, and it's such a narrow thing, man. Again, I could just go either way.
The one thing I just thought of that we didn't call out was Pete Dunne hit what is his thing?
Bitter end.
The bitter end onto a chair. I think it was Kyle O'Reilly that ate that. God, right on his ribs.
Disgusting.
God.
Just disgusting.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to watching both of them multiple times again over the course of the next week, and sure. I love those kinds of matches. Kyle threw in 100 bits. He said, I like this War Games match, but it got really long in the tooth towards the end after Pat went through the table. Pat went through the table?
Pat went through the table. Yeah, I remember that the one point.
Yeah.
They were trying to put everyone, ironically, in an ironic twist of fate, except for Roderick Strong, the heels went through the last 3 tables.
Right.
Including Bobby Fish.
Spearing Danny Burch.
Danny Burch through the table with his name on it.
Right.
And then there was an eye on the table moment where they tried to put Burch and Lorcan through the one table, and it just didn't break. And so Roddy had to do a splash onto it to break it. So that'll show up on Botchamania, I'm sure.
Yeah, he said just wasn't really any room to escalate from there in terms of match story and climax. Nothing wrong with the work, but they didn't really go on that high note. I think they got there. I think they got there with the. I mean, Pat McAfee kicked out of a Panama Sunrise. That's very rarely done.
I know what he's saying, but I do feel like there was another gear hit.
Yeah.
At the end of that match, like it was hard to keep up with it. I felt like it did kind of almost sputter, and so that's why I can see why he might have felt that it dropped off.
They coasted a little bit in the middle. It was a little bit of a valley there, but they got back up.
I think they had to have that little moment of lull before boom, big finish.
Yep.
Overall, I mean, if you go back and watch the other War Games matches in history, like there are some dips in all of them. It's just a match that long, you gotta have them. So, couple last things here, Nick. They did announce. Finn Balor said, "I'm coming back this Wednesday." Enough of looking at everybody else. Let's look back at me again. Yeah. But also, we had a little TikTok video, and not the kind where your sister's doing some weird dance in a dress that you don't want your dad seeing her in. No, we're talking about Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross had a nice vulture sitting there screaming a lot, and then a clock hits midnight, and you hear TikTok, and Karrion Kross coming back. Same time Finn Balor's coming back. What does that mean, Nick, with the trajectory Karrion Kross was on the last time we saw him, right when he won the championship, and with Finn Balor now as the champion, a strong champion? Well, that's a collision course if I ever heard one.
Absolutely. My question is there is a supernatural element to Karrion Kross, and I'm wondering if we're going to get to see the demon again, if it's going to have to be brought out.
If Karrion Kross beats the demon, Nick, I'm going to flip every table in my house. Just going to put that out there.
Who eventually will be worthy of beating the demon?
No one.
Is that the point?
Demon should
Nobody?
retire undefeated.
Okay.
Yes, you never give that. If I were Finn Balor, I'd never give that up.
Okay.
Never have someone kick out of the razor's edge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can defend your move to the end of your career. Just don't do it in a match. That's all you have to do is no, I'm just not going to give you my finisher. I want to kick out of your finisher. No.
No.
We'll find something else. You can do something else to make you look good. You're not kicking out my damn
I
finish.
expect Karrion Kross to come back and go, hey, thanks for keeping this warm for me, Prince. But I'll take that back now.
Yeah, you can go back down and challenge Johnny Gargano.
Right.
So overall, Nick, what did you think of the show? What did you think of Takeover War Games?
I think Takeover is a victim of its own success.
Ooh.
I think is what I want to say.
Okay.
I did not like it. Of course, it's
right.
It's Takeover.
Yeah.
Even the matches that we complain about are amazing, right? Even the Thatcher and Ciampa match, in context, on its own, is an amazing match.
Sure.
Right? Even the strap match between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis, those two dudes put on a show and beat the absolute hell out of each other.
I would say 4 out of 5. I mean, they're 4 out of 5 star matches.
Yeah.
It's totally solid. Nothing fundamentally wrong with them as matches. Just the build was a little lackluster. That's it. It's the only thing I can have to complain about those matches.
I think we've been spoiled for the last 2 to 3 years with the breakup of DIY and Johnny Gargano and Ciampa and the rise of Undisputed Era and the arrival of Adam Cole. And that's been basically the summary of the last 3 to 4 years, and everything else is sort of orbited around that. And we've gotten to this point now where that's no longer the case. And in a weird way, the things that are following it aren't living up to the standards that those things set. And yeah, I'm finding that I'm a little bit of a spoiled brat. I'm finding that they have spoiled us with all of that stuff, and I'm wanting more out of what we're getting. It's not that I don't think it's good. It's not that I don't like it.
Right.
But I feel like, but what about that couple years ago?
My wrestling.
But my wrestling.
Better. And it's like, well, yeah, NXT or New Japan's G1 was better last year than it was this year. It was still really good.
It was still amazing.
So I think you're 100% right, man. Like both the War Games matches were extremely entertaining. I don't know where I'd rank them in terms of War Games overall, but they were both really good.
Yeah.
This was an entertaining show. It was a great show. It was a great way to pass a Sunday afternoon.
I will easily say this was my favorite women's War Games match. This tonight.
Yes. This
the
show
men's
will be
I'm
remembered.
spoiled for choice a little bit. I do favor the one from last year with Keith Lee and Ricochet. It's tough.
Kevin Owens showing up.
Right.
I think that the women's this show will be remembered for the women's War Games match. It will be remembered that the men had a War Games match, but it will not be remembered as one of the better War Games, one of the best War Games matches that have happened in NXT.
Yeah.
You know, as far as they're ranked. But still, as you said, Nick, that's saying that this was not one of the best Takeover War Games. It's still it was an outstanding pay-per-view. So it's still praise to say that it was an NXT show. It was still really good. Is basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
Also, much like my Raiders today, I did win the pick'ems.
You ran the card.
I ran the card 5 for 5. Got everything right.
Which means I did not. Because we did have some very different picks.
You got 2 out of 5, sir.
Which 2 did I get? Correct. I didn't even pay attention.
You picked Tommaso Ciampa and you picked Leon Ruff to lose versus Johnny Gargano.
Gotcha.
So you picked Gargano and Ciampa. Ironic.
What? Oh, yeah, Gargano and Ciampa.
Get it? Hey, you picked DIY.
Right.
Basically. But yeah, that was your Takeover War Games, and now you have a whole other year before you have to hear Nick and me do our absolutely awful William Regal impressions ever again.
Right.
It'd be fantastic. So thank you guys all for hanging out with us here. We will be back on Tuesday. We'll be covering Raw, as well as talking about New Japan's World Tag League and Best of Super Juniors, which is wrapping up. And it's been very exciting. There's been some significant swerves at the end of this, as you would expect. Stuff's wild over there.
I've started keeping up. You're not wrong.
Dude, it's madness. I can't wait to talk about that. Of course, we have our mailbag episode then, too. So if you're a patron, get your questions in. And if you're not a patron, why don't you sign up? You can ask a question and hear us answer your question on that mailbag show. So, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out with us in Discord. Always a fun time. Always great to have you all in there. It was very exciting and fun tonight. And everyone hanging out with us right now on Twitch, you guys rock. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for your subs and bits. You cannot understand how much we appreciate that. And everyone listening to us out there in La La Land, in the world, we appreciate you all too. in the ethers of the interwebs. Thank you guys so very much, as always, for tuning in to Busted Wide Open. We love you, each and every one. And, of course, happy holidays.
Happy holidays indeed. Guys, we'll be back, of course, as you said, Ian, but we got TLC in 2 weeks from tonight. TLC, the last pay-per-view of the year. It's always a good one, so make sure you tune in and get ready to go. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast. Come get into the Facebook discussion group with the rest of the phenomenal ones. Just search for Busted Wide Open over on Facebook. Send us like our page and send us a join request to get in for fun news items, all kinds of good stuff as well over there. And patreon.com/BWO to get signed up for one of your favorite Patreon tiers. Thank you guys so much for all of the support every single month. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you. My name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And Kyle Cotton put in $100 to make us, or 100 bits to make us say War Games one last time.
All right, so
Nick on the count.
War Games one last time.
Let's do it. Okay.
You go and then I'll go.
Okay. War Games. Sorry, the Triple H version.
You didn't get it. War Games.
War Games.
War Games.
I'm Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God,
would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio.
For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.